Today, we're diving into a study that sits at a pretty wild intersection: electric cars and quantum energy. And it asks a question that might just make you think twice about your next drive. I mean, we all think of electric cars as the future, right? They're quiet, they're efficient, they're clean. But what if all that amazing technology is creating a kind of invisible stress? Something that affects our bodies in ways we can't see or feel right away. And look, this isn't just some hypothetical question. We're breaking down a recent report that tries to measure this very effect. It claims it not only found a biological problem, but also tested a device that's supposed to fix it. Okay, so before we can get to the solution they propose, we've got to understand the problem they say they found. Just think about it for a second. The inside of a modern car is basically a tech bubble, isn't it? You've got powerful electric motors, screens everywhere, sensors, constant connectivity. So this study is asking a really simple question. Is there a biological cost being surrounded by all this stuff? The specific culprit, according to this study, is electromagnetic fields, or EMFs. And we're not just talking about one thing. The report points to a whole bunch of them, from the car's own powerful systems to the constant storm of cell signals, Wi-Fi, and GPS that we're all swimming in every day. Now, after laying out this modern problem, the study introduces a potential solution. And it's a unique one. Here it is. This is the device at the very heart of the experiment. It's called the Leela Quantum Infinity Bloc. And it's not an electronic device in the way you might think. The manufacturer calls it a quantum energy generator. And here is the core claim, taken right out of the report. The manufacturer says this block can harmonize and neutralize the very EMFs the study is worried about. That is a bold claim, for sure, and that's exactly what this experiment was set up to test. So you've got invisible fields and a box that claims to neutralize them. How on earth do you even measure that? Well, the method they used here is, let's just say it's unconventional. These tests were done by a group out of Austria called IFVBESA, which is a mouthful. It stands for the International Association for BioEnergetic System Analysis. And they used their own method called BESA. It's really important to understand this isn't about measuring radiation with a standard meter. According to the document, BESA is supposed to analyze what it calls the body's energy field by taking readings at certain points on the hands and feet, kind of like what's done in acupuncture. To make sense of the results, you have to know their scale. In the BESA system, green is the sweet spot that's considered optimal. Yellow indicates stress, but the two critical zones for this experiment are blue, which signifies an energy deficiency, and red, which the study calls total deregulation, which is basically system overload. Okay. And this is where the methodology takes a really fascinating turn. The tests weren't even performed on the person in the car. They were done remotely in a lab using only a photograph of the subject. The study itself calls this method quantum entangled, based on the idea that the photograph creates an energy-informative image of the person. All right, so we have the problem, the proposed solution, and the unusual measurement tools. So how did the researchers actually structure the driving test itself? The whole thing was set up as a classic before and after test. So first, the before part. They took a baseline reading of the subject just standing outside the car. Then another after 5 minutes of driving, and a third while driving and making a phone call. Then came the after tests, where they did the exact same things, but this time with that quantum block inside the car with him. The report then gets into the results of those before tests. And the findings, as they're presented in the study, are pretty startling. So get this. This is the baseline result for the test subject. Before he even got in the car, his system was already registering as 95% in that degenerative blue range and 5% in that critical total dysregulation red range. The study's own conclusion was that his energy system was, and this is a quote, already heavily burdened. A 5-minute drive. That's it. Shorter than it takes to listen to a couple of songs. So, what happened? Well, here are the numbers. After just 5 minutes, the reading for total deregulation, that critical red zone, jumped from 5% to 7%. Now, that might not sound like a huge leap, but within their system of analysis, that's considered a significant shift. It points to a measurable increase in stress on the system. And the study doesn't mince words about what this could all mean. Based on that jump after only 5 minutes, its authors conclude that permanent or long-term exposure to these fields could cause, and I'm quoting, severe damage to the organism's energy system. So, the report establishes a measurable negative effect, But remember, this was a two-part experiment. The researchers measured a stress reaction. They recorded the data. And then, they brought the Leela Quantum Infinity Bloc back into the picture for the second phase of the test. So, what's the takeaway here? This study claims to have measured a biological stress reaction to being in an electric car, using its own unique methods. It established a problem, and then it tested a solution. And that brings us to the final critical question. When they put the block in the car, did it actually work? Well, according to the report, the answer is in the rest of their data.